We continue to follow breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ from the NFL, where 49er star Christian McCaffrey set to miss at least 6 weeks with that PCL injury. The All-Pro tailback was injured during last night's loss in Buffalo. He's going to IR. McCaffrey's 6-week timeline knocks him out for the rest of the regular season, but he could potentially return in the playoffs if the Niners were to make it. Another tough blow for McCaffrey. He's played in just 4 games this season due to an Achilles injury. As we take a look at the games missed since 2020. Only played in 3 games in 2020, and then in 2021 he played in 7 games. He was with Carolina back then, acquired by the Niners in October of 2022. Played 21 games in 2022, another 19 in 23. You see, he only missed the 1, but then this year the Achilles injury keeps him out for 8 games, and then he's out for another 6, so possibly looking at just a 4-game log for the current season. Let's bring in Ryan Wilson for more on this. Ryan, first of all, let me get your reaction here, because this Niners team just can't escape the injury bug. They're also losing Jordan Mason. He's going to IR, so he's gone for 4 weeks. So basically, they've lost their top 2 running backs as they try to make a push for the playoffs. Your reaction here and how this Niners team is going to react to this?
If you thought rock bottom was losing on the road in the snow in Buffalo 35-10, that saw Mitch Trubisky make his way into the field to relieve Josh Allen, this makes it immeasurably worse, because this feels like, Jeremy, you're not coming back from. And it was already tenuous with the way the injury bug had plagued the 49ers. Trent Williams didn't play last night. Aaron Banks didn't play. Nick Bosa. And Brandon Ayuk's season's been over for a few weeks now because of an ACL. And you see the list here of names. I don't care who you are, whether you're Bill Belichick or Kyle Shanahan, who's been to 2 Super Bowls, or Don Shula. You're not winning without your best players. And I don't mean 1 or 2 guys. We're looking at 10 guys here, 12 guys if I do the math. That is not sustainable. And you see that they're in last place in the division. And, yeah, it makes sense. You don't have any of your players. So the playoffs that you talk about in terms of Christian McCaffrey return feel like an absolute long shot. And that's, again, because you don't have your guys. But here's the silver lining, if you want one. We've seen Kyle Shanahan teams win 6 games when they lost their best player in Jimmy Garoppolo and bounce back to win double-digit games and find their way to the playoffs, and then, again, go to the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. So sunny skies are ahead. It's just not going to be this season, it feels like. And good news for Isaac Guerrero, gets an opportunity to play running back and as a rookie and help this team along. But if you're John Lynch, the GM, or Kyle Shanahan, I think all you can do is go to work, keep your head down, and try to find ways to win these football games. It's going to be tough sledding for sure, but I think losing Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason, it makes the idea of a playoff almost an impossibility at this point.
But I guess, I mean, there is the silver lining. You're only 2 games back at this point, right? You're not going to face Seattle, who's sitting atop the division, but you are going to face Arizona. You are going to face the Rams before you're done. So, I mean, I guess if you look at that, if this team finds a way to kind of rally, I guess if you're Kyle Shanahan, I guess this could be a rallying point. Like, now it's time for this team to come together. But as you mentioned, Ryan, I mean, it's hard to do. But looking at the schedule, it's not impossible, is it?
No, and that's a good point, because it's going to be easier for them to win their division than it will be to sneak in as a wild card team. You see their 7 is the Commanders at 8-5, and I don't think anyone would argue that the 49ers are better than the Commanders, Packers, or Vikings. So what you need to do is make up those 2 games that you talk about in the NFC West, which does feel wide open. Is Seattle the best team? I can make a case for the Cardinals, and when the Rams are healthy, I never count them out. So maybe that's the way to think about it. And you know, when you're familiar with the opponents, like all these coaches are in the NFC West, maybe that gives you an upper hand. Now, again, you're going to need duct tape and chicken wire to figure this thing out without your best players, and that's probably going to mean a healthy dose of Guerrero and Brock Purdy pulling some magic out of the hat, and the defense with Fred Warner without Nick Bosa for the time being, finding ways to create turnovers. A lot of ifs and a lot of hope. But again, you're just 2 games back, to your point, and that's going to be an easier path than trying to run down one of those teams, the wild card, whether it's the Packers or the Washington Commanders.
Obviously, not having your top player in Christian McCaffrey certainly makes that job tougher, as you have mentioned repeatedly. He's played 40 games over the last 2 years, and now it looks like he's going to only play 4, at least in the regular season, unless some kind of a miracle for the Niners. Ryan, what's your level of concern with McCaffrey moving forward, given this list of injuries that continues to pile up?
Oh, it's high. But I will say this. I had some questions when they made that trade back in 2022 that you talked about, but it was an absolute home run of a trade. In part because Christian McCaffrey had an injury history, in part because he plays a position where you can find similar productivity for cheaper. But Christian McCaffrey is one of one, and he proved worth what it costs to get them in that trade, because they had a chance to win the Super Bowl, and that's all you want to do. It does feel like on some level, taking a macro view, Jeremy, with these injuries, that maybe the window's closing. I don't want to slam it shut on the 49ers because I never want to slam anything shut on Kyle Shanahan. But Christian McCaffrey was the engine that made everything work with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and obviously George Kittle. Ayuk's done, and Deebo's not been quite himself this year, and McCaffrey's now on the shelf once again. So I wonder if the window's we're getting close to shutting it. Maybe it's not there yet. Maybe we do have another year of a healthy Christian McCaffrey. But there are a lot of questions that they need to answer, and they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy as well. So that's one more consideration when they head into the offseason.
Sitting at 5-7 and long shots to make the playoffs at this point. Certainly that is the case. Ryan Wilson, NFL analyst, joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. Ryan and former GM Rick Spielman probably going to be talking about what the Niners' future might look like if that window is closing on With the First Pick podcast, where they discuss the NFL draft at length and in detail. You can download and follow that wherever you get your podcasts, or scan that QR code to get that latest episode right now.